computer. So we're recording. Good morning, everybody. We're going to continue with lesson 9. And this is where we left off on Tuesday. I added a couple of elements and finished up a couple of things. But more or less, this particular part of lesson 9 has to do with adding unordered lists. Remember, we were having difficulty selecting. And at the moment, this is selecting just fine. But then when I want to select the bottom one, if it doesn't work, then we're going to switch to design view. And why that's the case in Dreamweaver, I don't know. The one thing to remember, though, at the bottom here, let me bring up my properties panel so you can see that a little bit more clearly. But this is where you add, the unordered list. If you want to switch to an ordered list, then you just click on there, and that's it. And if you want to switch back to an unordered list, then you click there. And if you don't want any list at all, then you just turn that off, okay? So I got to make sure that, see, that was just that one list item that was selected. I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that the whole list is selected. You can see that that one list item was selected. Another way to do that would be to, come in the down here in the code view and just select the whole unordered list, like so. And with that selected, now I can go ahead, and if I turn unordered list off, now all of them just return to paragraph, and that's it. Okay, so that's unordered lists versus ordered lists. And again, that challenge of selecting or working in live view versus design view versus code view. And sometimes, in design view, even though it kind of goofs up the layout, sometimes it's just easier to select in here. And I forget that all the time. I don't like working in design view because sometimes it's difficult to select for different reasons, just because it goofs up your layout. But anyway, that is an option for you. A couple of other things that I wanted to emphasize is that when you bring in the rich text format for the quotes, that they are unformatted. And when you do use quotes, it is important that you apply the correct syntax. So what I'm going to do for this one right here, I have a couple of quotes that are here, one by John Ruskin, another one by Benjamin Franklin, is that the first, make sure that they are in paragraph tags first, that they're nested in a paragraph tag. Not the person who made the quote, but the quote itself. And then what you want to do is you want to select the whole, the quote and the person who made the quote, and then you want to wrap it in a quote, a quote tag. So if I say insert, let's write from here. I normally just put do it by hand in here. So it's not very frequent that I do it this way. And in fact, let's go to here, and I want to put under HTML. And let's see if I can't just add a quote from here. I'm just going to add a block quote from here. So right in front of it, I'll just type it in. It'll be easier. So I'm going to go ahead and put the left bracket, put block quote. Make sure that there's that right bracket here. And then at the very end, after John Ruskin, the person who cited the quote, I'm going to put a closing tag for the block quote. Okay, so that works. But now John Ruskin, I mean, you could conceivably leave it as is, but it deserves being inside a site quote. and that's kind of important for having the proper syntax. Again, it's like I say, writing an essay in English or history or something like that, that you want to make sure that you use the correct syntax, you know, that your capital letters are capital when they're supposed to be, and you have periods where you're supposed to have them, and so on and so forth. So that has to do with the quotes. So that's how you do that. Anytime you use a quote, then the tag for that is block quote. The quote itself should be inside a paragraph tag, and then the person who made the quote should be inside a cite tag. Then if we go over here under books, we have green books and that sort of thing. You'll notice that some of the titles here I have highlighted with M tags. So if we come in here, because normally they don't have one when you apply or just paste the text in here. But you can see if I click inside any one of these that I've already assigned, it says M for emphasis. And again, that has to do with proper syntax. So books normally are italicized, or they can, in print, they can be underlined. Normally, I think the italic is the way it goes now. So for example, if we come down here to the next one, so this was that, and we're going to have, what's the next title here? So I guess the next one is life tips. So if we select the whole thing here, okay, well, and then maybe I just highlight the text. Notice that it gives me options here. Do I want this in bold, or I do want it? Now it shows it that it's italic, but italic and M are different. They look the same, but the syntax is a little bit different. Again, it just, when I click on there, notice it automatically adds that M tag to it. And if we look at it inside the code view, you can see that the M tag is nested within the paragraph tag. So that's all you need to do. You need to come back in here, and we're going to go ahead, and if you highlight, again, I don't want to highlight all of it, but I just highlight the text that I want to be emphasized. And then it gives me these options at the top here now. There used to be an M tag here in the properties panel, and I no longer see it. And I just click I here, and it changes it to the M tag. And that's all there is to that. And again, it's good practice. I know that if you plan on publishing your website in various places and they need to be ADA compliant, they will be very strict about using the proper syntax. So while this may seem like a minor issue, it will be very important. Okay. So the next part of the lesson, if there are no questions, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go File, New. Let's go ahead and move this over here. And again, it's going to be from our template, and it's going to be File, New. Again, from the template. And this is going to be a Contact Us page. And what we want to do is we want to further isolate, or maybe isolate or customize groups of paragraphs so that the styling is just a little bit more specific. So we're going to add what is called a profile tag to the, well, it's not a tag, but it's going to be style to this. So again, we work with our template, and I'm going to go ahead and save it before I do anything else. And I'm having trouble with my friend here. So I'm going to go Save As, and I'll name it Contact Us. So contact _us HTML. It's saved in here. And oh yeah, something that I forgot to mention, that while you're working on this, you know, if you just open it right up and you haven't been paying attention, make sure that you go to Site, right? And you shouldn't have to do this because you're working on your own computers, but I know that at school when we were working in the labs that it resets every time you shut down the computer, that you want to manage your sites and make sure that the site is selected and make sure that you have the correct folder selected. In this case, it will be lesson 9 for your root folder, and that the image folder inside lesson 9 is the one that's selected. Otherwise, again, you're going to have huge problems with this. So I've saved it, and now we're ready to import some text. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to my resources here. And what we want is not calendar, that's going to be for that. Contact us, RTF, rich text format. So there we go. That's all of that. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just select all, Command A, and I'm going to copy. And now I can go ahead and put this aside. I can hide it, do whatever. And then come back in the paragraph area here, right? And remember that if as long as this P tag has the orange box around it, and if I hit Command V to paste, it just comes in as one big block of text contained within a paragraph. And I do not want that. Since it's coming in as rich text format, I want to make sure that it comes in with those paragraph breaks. And I forget this myself all the time. So make sure that you click on that little blue box at the top here and make sure that the paragraph is highlighted so that it is really basically these, the whole paragraph is selected, but it's not in edit mode. And now when I hit Command V to paste, it all comes in the way I want it. So the next step here, I guess I could come back in and I can add my heading in here and my subhead and that sort of thing. But again, those are just, adding the text by hand. The important part of the lesson right here is going to be, let's go ahead and take this where it says add content, and I'm going to get rid of that paragraph. But then in here where it says for general questions and that sort of thing, this is where the subheading goes. And then we have, so really we can get rid of the subheading as well. Okay, and just leave that paragraph tag there for general questions and information, email, when contacting. And then starting it with the association management, all of these paragraphs next to education and events. And then we have a third one, transportation analysis. And we probably have a fourth and a fifth and a sixth. Okay, all of those, rather than being left alone in their paragraphs, each of those groups that belong together need to be inside section tags. And then we're going to customize the section tags, okay, so that they look a little bit different than the previous ones. So the previous parts of the lesson. So I can either select from here and I can give that a whirl. And if I have trouble with it, then we'll see what happens. So I'm going to start by selecting education and events. And I'm going to go all the way down to here. Okay, then I'm going to hit Command T. And I want to wrap the tag around that, and it's going to be a section tag section. So when you can select a group like that and add the tag, that's the way to go. When you can't, or if you're not sure that it's being wrapped around the correct group, then maybe you want to do it by hand. Okay, so the next is going to be education and events. So if I'm having trouble selecting that, then maybe I just want to go to, I'm going to try this time. Today, I'm going to go switch from live to design view and see if that I don't have better luck. Okay. So now I have education and events selected. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead. Well, that is inside a section tag. So do I have association, management? Let's make sure that, let's see if all of that is, maybe I didn't select all of that. Yeah. See, I put it in the wrong one. I mean, it isn't in the wrong one, but each one of those groups that ends with an email, this is specific to a person within this company. I'm going to go ahead and hit Command T. And again, I can wrap the tag around there and I'll put a section tag. And again, section tags again have to do with HTML5. And it adds specificity is what it does to these groups. And I have a question here. So let's see what I have here. Carlos, quick question. Every time I cut and paste from their documents, why does everything all together? Okay. So the question from Carlos is that every time he cuts and pastes from the documents, it comes in as one big paragraph. And the reason is because, as I was explaining a moment ago, is that when you select, so I guess I could go back and do this again, but if I were to select, let's say I wanted something pasted after this paragraph here, okay? So if I click in here, let's go back to from design view to live view, just so we can see those properties, okay? That again, when you click in here and you see that box of the text, of the text that is contained within that paragraph, okay, when it's highlighted in that box in orange and you paste, it's going to come in as one big paragraph. So, if I were to go ahead and I were to paste it now, see how it comes in as one big paragraph? I don't want that. And I make that mistake all the time. So what you have to do is you have to click on the little blue box here. And now when the box is highlighted in blue, when you paste, notice that they all come in as their separate paragraphs. And that's what you want. So give that a try. Okay. So I'm just going to go back again to design view. And I want to make sure that, let's see, if I go to research and development, and I'm going to hit Command T, I believe that was the next one, and I want that to be wrapped in a section tag. Actually, I think it was transportation analysis was the next one. But well, that's okay. We'll put a section tag around this one. And let's go back up here under transportation analysis. And I'm just going to do that for all of these, and you'll see what happens in a minute. Okay. So now I've highlighted all of that, multiple paragraphs, and you might want to check as you're doing that. Look in the code view to make sure that you have everything selected. So, with all of that selected, I can go ahead and I can hit Command T. And you want to make sure that it says wrap tag. So what it's doing is it's taking all of those elements and it's taking another tag now and putting it in another container, which is a section tag. There we go. So we have research and development done. We have information systems, I believe, is the next one. So I'll go ahead and I'll highlight all of that. Again, now I'm going to go ahead and hit Command T or Control T if you're on the PC. And again, I'm going to wrap it in a section tag. I got to make sure that I spell it right. There. And I hit the return key twice to do that. Now let's go back to this. When I'm in design view, you notice that all the formatting that we had created before, especially right now, if I look at association management, that's an H1 tag. So whatever we have assigned previously in here is going to be formatted for that. If we want it to be an H2 tag, and we change all of these to H2 tags, remember what we formatted on Tuesday is that we change the size and the color of it. And because it's inside a section, it should automatically be formatted. But notice that all the formatting that we've used really doesn't look, appear until you go back to our our live view. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click in here, and with just the paragraph selected, now with each of these for the titles, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit Command P, and I'm going to edit the tag. And instead of P tag, we're going to use an H2 tag. And as soon as I change that to an H2 tag, notice that it automatically formats to the green and the size that we used in the previous part of the lesson. Now, if this were not inside a section, it would not be formatted this way. So I probably should have left one of those outside of a section, but that's, I've already done all of that. I'm trying to do it in the correct order. And the same thing applies here. We're going to go to Education and Events, Command T, and I'm going to go ahead and put in H2 tag. Okay. And there we go. And we do the same thing with transportation analysis. And I hit Command T, and I put in an H2 tag. And again, H2 tags, mean why are you using H1, H2, and that sort of thing. Again, it has to do with the syntax that's used in web design and HTML. And typically, H1 tags are assigned to, you can use more than one H1 tag on a page now, but in the past, you were only supposed to use it once. But that would be assigned to an element that's the most important thing on your page. And then similar to what you would have if you were outlining your story or a paper that you were writing, your Roman numerals are the most important elements, and the letters, capital letters would be the next important, and so on and so forth. Well, that's what these are, basically, H1 through H6. And I never use anything smaller than an H3. And then the smallest element, or the most common one, would be your P tag for paragraph, and that's it. So let's go back in here and change this one. So Command T, and we'll make this an H2 tag so that that's properly formatted. And then we have information systems, Command T, and make that an H2 tag. So I'm just kind of finishing all this up here. There we go. So we're in good shape so far. But now we want to further customize all of these. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another class, a class to this, to the sections, to make them even more specific so that we can define a border around it. And remember, borders don't have to go all the way around. To customize this and to inset it and to make it look even a little bit more unique or stylized so that it's actually easier to read. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select, and I can do that from up here. If I click here, let's do one at a time. Now there's the paragraph tag, but what I want to do is if I select the section, notice that that whole section now is selected, and I did that from my tag selector at the bottom. We could also go ahead and we could do that from over here in our DOM. I can select an entire selection, section from here as well. So whatever works best for you, or if you wanted to, you could just highlight it in the code view. And notice that the opening and closing tag are selected. So what we want to do now is we're going to create a new class for this, and it's called Profile. And we only want the styles that we apply to the profile to be applied to these specific groups, and it won't affect any of the other sections that we've created in any of the other parts of the lesson. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the little plus sign here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put dot, because that's what you start a class with, and it's going to be named Profile. Does it have to be named Profile? No. Just that that's what we're adding in this particular case. Okay, so the profile has been added to it. So now we're ready to begin to style this thing. Okay, so we've added that, and now we get into switching over to our CSS Designer, okay? And let's see if it's already, I'm gonna make sure that I have green styles selected. And let's see at the bottom here if it's been added. And if not, then I need to add it. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a new style just named profile, and that dot profile, and that's it. So at the bottom here, I'm going to go ahead and add, make sure that it's added to green styles. I'm going to go ahead and click the little plus, and it's going to be dot profile. And hit the return key twice. And there you go. Now profile has been added. But don't see any changes yet because we haven't added anything specific. So looking at the book here, we're going to add padding because by default, remember, text goes all the way to the edge of the div. And we want to add a little bit of space there so that it's not butt up against it. So we're going to use, in padding here, let's scroll down here. We're just going to use shorthand method here. And we want 5 at the top, 5 at the bottom, and 0 on the left and the right. So I'm going to put 5 pixels, 5 px, and then I'm going to put 0 px. Okay? And then I hit the tab key. And you'll notice that it, it changes a little bit. Let's make sure that we have that selected. Make sure that that is being affected in there. And let me remove that just to see what happens, or turn it off just to see what happens. And nothing. I don't think anything was added. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. We'll find out in a minute. So I'm going to turn it back on. There we go. It did change it. So that was the top and the bottom, okay, between each of the profile groups. So the next thing that we're going to add are margins. And it's the same thing, 5 in the top, 5 in the bottom, okay, 5 pixels. So again, we're going to use shorthand method, and we're going to use 5 pixels and 0 pixels. Okay, so that's been added now, okay. So the next thing is that we're going to change the border of this, and this is what makes it really unique, I think. So what we're going to do now is we're going to switch over here to the border, and hopefully I've done this correctly. And remember, you can change, you can have a border go all the way around, add it just to the top, just to the bottom, just to the left or the right, or a combination. So we want a combination of to the left and the bottom. So let's start with the top. Okay. So the border to the top is going to be, let's go ahead and add it to the top here. We want it to be 10 pixels. Okay, so the width is going to be in pixels, and we want it to be 10. So let's go ahead and put that in there. 10. Okay, and now we want the style to be solid. And now we want the color. And let's go ahead and add that. We want it to be CAD. So let's go in here and add it to the Octothorpe. CAD. AAF. There we go. So we have this light kind of green here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add that to my library, click off of it, and see if it changes. And there you go. See the little border that's been added to the top? And now we're going to add one to the left side, and only to the left, and that's it. Okay, so we're going to do pretty much the same thing, but it's going to have the same color, same style, but a different width. So to the left now, and then to the, wait a minute. That's to the top, and then to the bottom. Huh, they want to the bottom as well. Hold on here. Okay, well, I'm going to add it to the bottom as well. Let's add it to the bottom. I'm following the book here. I thought we were doing something a little bit different. So I'm going to go ahead and add to the bottom here, and it's going to be the same as what we did to the top. So I'm going to go ahead and under width, again, I want it to be in pixels. I want it to be 10. Okay. And we want style to be solid. And we want the color to be that lime green that we just created. Okay. There we go. Okay. And then to the left will be the last one, and it says style none. Now, I did this a little bit differently. Maybe because, never mind. I'm looking at the wrong group here. So what I'm doing here under profile is a little bit different. Yeah, I goofed. I'm sorry. So let's come back here. I was looking at a different group because I knew that this looked wrong to me. So I'm going to come back to profile and let's just look at the everything in here. And I'm just going to go ahead and I want the top and the bottom to go away. So I'm just going to get rid of those. And I'm going to do that again. I'm looking at the wrong one. I knew that that looked wrong. So let's go back to the top here and let's see what we have. And we got the bottom, and I'll go ahead and I'll remove those as well. So it's just as easy to remove. So we're doing something different. I just want it added to the left and the bottom. That's what I thought. So I'm going to go over to the, let's start with the bottom. Actually, before I do though, I'm going to go back to margins. So under profile, let's go back up here to margins and padding. And I thought this was weird too. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this. And I'm going to remove, for the padding, I'm going to remove this as well. Okay. Okay. So there we go for the profile. So under padding, we're going to add 10 to the left. That's what I thought. We're going to go back in here. And I want to add 10 pixels because it's going to be pushed away a little bit and indented a little. And you'll notice that all of those paragraphs get pushed to the right just a little bit. That's what I wanted. Now the margins, we're going to put 0 at the top. Okay. So hopefully we have, that's padding. Now we have margins here. Let's go back to margins. Let's go back here and I want at the top, I'm going to put 0. And over here on the right, I'm going to put 25 pixels. So let's see if I can't add that. Let's go ahead and add pixels. There we go. Come back in here and add this by hand, 25 pixels. And that pulls that in to the right a little bit. And then at the bottom, we want 15 pixels. So we're adding quite a bit of space around each of these profile sections here. And then to the left, we want margins, we want 25 pixels. So we have, 25 and 25. Make sure that I'm doing this right. 25 There we go. Now I can add the border. And now you'll see that we have adequate space around each of these paragraphs. So now what I can do, and once I've done it for this group, I can add profile as the class to all the others, and boom, they're automatically formatted. So I should be in good shape. So next, what I want to do is let's go back to borders again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the left one first. Okay. So width is going to be 2 pixels. And the style is going to be solid. And the color is going to be that lime green. There we go. So you can see that that little border is showing up there to the left. Okay. There we go. And now we want one along the bottom, and that's going to be 10 pixels. So again, the width is going to be 10 pixels. So we're going to measure it in pixels. I want it to be 10 pixels. Style solid. Does it have to be solid? No. Does it have to be 10? No. It's just a look that they're going for. And I really like the look because it isolates the text and makes it that much more readable for the viewer. And now if you look at it and compare it to the other paragraphs down here, look at how much more readable, how much easier it is to read the group in here when it's formatted this way. So what I just need to do to the next groups is I need to go ahead and I need to change, click anywhere inside the next section here. And I'm going to select that section, and then I'm going to add the profile class to it. So if I hit dot profile, since we've already created that, notice that that's automatically formatted now. So, it's all, and that was the same for us actually creating our initial styling for all of these. Once the initial styling is done, when you apply it to other elements that you want to look the same, it doesn't take much work at all. So we'll do the same thing. I'll just click anywhere inside here and use the tag selector to select the whole selection. Add the class profile, dot profile, tab key, and that's, formatted. And I just do it for all of them. Okay, select the whole section, click on the little plus there, type in dot profile, hit the tab key, and it's formatted. I'm a big believer in having a lot of space around text to make it easy to read, for the viewer to read. When it's butt up against, the text is butt up against the edges of the divs, it's really difficult. I find it difficult to read. Needs some air around it. And that would be true if I were working in print as well. That's it. So that's it for that. We're going to add some stuff to the, and this is where they wanted it to change. That was my mistake. Over here to the right, oh, that was it. It was making it responsive. My bad. Yeah, I've forgotten. So that when we scrunch down here, okay, and it goes all the way down to a little tiny smartphone, that maybe we want it to change under these circumstances, that we don't want this. We only want a top and a bottom instead. So that's what we can do. We can leave it, small like this. But instead what we're going to do is, remember we created our media query, and we can select that and we can create one for profile for that. And now what we're going to do when it's at that size, now we can add to the top and the bottom. So that's what I was doing before. We want to add padding to the top, to the left, and to and to the right. No, it goes top, bottom, and none on the left and the right. And then we can add borders to the top and the bottom, and that's it. So that it changes as we resize our piece here. So I'll go ahead here, and while it's scrunched down, I'm going to go ahead and add a dot profile to that. Okay, and that's where we're going to change it here. So this now will override the other. So we're going to go ahead and, as I said, to the padding, we're going to go ahead here. Let's go back and find padding. So there's margins, here's padding. So on padding, we want 5 at the top. Well, I'm just going to use the shorthand method. 5 pixels at the top. Okay, and we want 0 to the sides. Okay. So that automatically changes that. And notice how it's butt up against the edge now. So it's actually expanding to fit a tiny little screen. But then what we want to do for the border, okay, is we're going to change the border for the top. And we want to change it now. Instead of 10 pixels, we're just going to use 5 pixels. So the width is going to be 5 pixels. And the style is going to be solid as we did before. Okay, and the color is going to be the same as what we used before. Okay, that light kind of lime, I think it was that one, or is it this one? What is this one, I think? There we go. That's it. And so now we're going to do for the same for the bottom, and we need to take the left, okay, and we're going to put none. Okay, so width here is going to be none. So we need to override that. So we want, again, in pixels, we want none. There we go. So that goes away. And then along the bottom, again, we're going to go ahead and we're going to change it to the same. I believe it's going to be 5 pixels. So again, along the bottom, we're going to go ahead under width. We're going to have 5 pixels. Okay. Five pixels. And style, solid. And color, we're going to go back to that color again. So now notice how the styling has changed for that as we go to the bottom here. This doesn't look quite right, but that's okay. You kind of get the idea. So as I stretch it out, notice that it goes back to a border just on the left and the bottom. And then as it shrinks down to a smaller screen. Now I have it along the top and the bottom. I don't know that I would have done it that way. So we have border top and border bottom. Yeah, and border left was set to none. So style was set to none. So let's go back and make sure with that under border bottom. Okay. Oh, that was left who I wanted to change. Sorry. Style, I should say, set to none. That's it. I can get rid of the size. That's not important. There we go. So again, it's, you know, it changes. I don't know that I like the look. I would have probably changed the size of the top and the bottom a little bit, maybe change the size a little. But, you know, again, we're designing for both large and small screens. And that's it on that. Now, they have some other stuff that they want us to add, again, to the sides, and I'm going to leave that up to you guys. The next one is the hardest part of all of this, and that's adding tables. Okay, so we're going to create and we're going to style tables. That's the next thing that we have to do. So we're going to get started with this today, and then that will be it for today, and then we're going to finish it up next week. I want to let you know, for those of you who are here, next Tuesday we will not have a webinar, but we will have one on Thursday. Okay, I have some medical things that I need to attend to on Tuesday. So yeah, just again, and I'll try to, on the weekend, try to email everybody as a reminder that on Tuesday we don't have a webinar, but on Thursday we do. Okay. Any questions so far about this? No? I like the look of what they have, to be quite honest. It, you know, divides this group of text really beautifully. And again, if we go back, remember how the border was added because we added the specific class? And if we go back to green news, where were we here? Again, the only thing that we changed here, and we put all of this, I believe, was how about green tips? There we go. Again, notice that those borders to the left and the bottom aren't added because they aren't in a profile tag. However, if I were to come back in here, okay, and I were to select within this group here, select that section, okay, the whole section, and if I were to add now profile, dot profile, if I wanted it to look a little bit different, notice how it reassigns a look to that. So if you wanted it divided that way, you could do that. And if you don't, you know, then we can go ahead and I can undo that and I can take it back, or you can remove the class from it and you're done. Okay, no questions? So the next one, let's look at events finished first to see what we have here. And I said this is the hardest one because what we're doing is we're adding a table, and we're adding, again, content from existing content, similar to what we did with a rich text format. But instead of rich text, we're using table format, was created using Excel. And then we're formatting it so that it looks, all of the rows and the columns are formatted correctly, and that they also, for a small screen, are formatted even further. And this gets really complicated. And it's really easy to muck up. So prepare for me to muck up here. Does everybody see that? Now, it used to be the case, there's a question here. Oh, it'll work out okay. It's just that it's just that, you know, it takes some doing sometimes and some redoing of some things for this. So, okie doke, ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and move this up here. And let's start. And I believe I have another untitled one here that we're going to use for our tables. Now, it used to be the case that tables were used to actually structure our pages in HTML. And that was a really awkward way of organizing our page and structuring it. But tables provided the basic framework for us. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead here, and after this paragraph tag here, I'm going to add a table. So to do that, you can do that in a number of different ways. I could come over here to files, not files, what am I saying, insert, and then I can make sure that this is set to HTML, And then I can make sure that I want to add a table. So I could do that like so. And I want it to be added afterwards. So that's one way of doing it. Another way is to go ahead and again, click that there, make sure that it's highlighted in blue, and I can go up to the Insert tab. And again, what I want to do under HTML is I want to add a table. So it's right here. And a little dialog box should pop up even after this. I want it to be inserted after that paragraph tag. And now we have some other information that we have to add in here. Tables are nothing more than a really strict grid, of rows and columns. Okay. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add a number. We're going to have only 2 rows, and we're going to have 4 columns. That's the default. And then what we're going to do is, by default, it has a border of 1. Borders look really clunky, but eventually we're going to get rid of all of that. Okay, because we're going to take the default HTML structuring of all of this, and we're going to get rid of it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click OK to add that. And it's added a little table. Now, when you have the table selected, you'll notice at the bottom, or wherever your properties panel is that you can adjust, how this is formatted. By default, it's done in percentages. You can do it in pixels if you wish. Okay. You can also do it in percentages. These days, percentages seem to be the choice that you would prefer to make because it allows, again, to expand and contract the size of your page. And if you do it in a fixed number of pixels, that no matter how big your page is or how small it is, the table will always remain in that fixed size. So we're going to do it in percentages, and we're going to leave it at 100%. If you want to remove the border, you can. And if you do want to remove a border altogether, you would put 0 in there. If you want to add rows and columns, you can do that. So we can click in here. Let's click inside. There we go. So now I'm inside that, and that's table data. So let me go back again. Let's select the whole table, and I'll do that from down here. Okay. Make sure that not the table data, I want the whole table to be selected. Come on, not the article. Why am I having such a hard time selecting things? I want to select, there we go. Table body, table. Table. So why am I having a hard time selecting it? I guess I could do it from code view, but that's not what I want to do. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to enter some information by hand. We're going to go ahead here, and in the first cell, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add date. Okay, and notice what happens, that when you have the individual little boxes inside the rows and columns are called cells, and that the whole table itself, even though it has a fixed width, functions kind of like a pair of spandex pants, is that if there's nothing in it, it shrinks to nothing. And if you add content, it expands the fit. And that's basically what we're doing here. So now if I select the next cell over here and I type in events, notice how that expands the fit. Okay, or event, I guess, is what they want us to put. Okay, so that we're adding the content to that. And now let's go back over to, they want us to go back over to, instead of live view, we're going to look at this in design view. Okay, and it gets really hard to control. It just does when you're in design view. And I apologize, but I don't know why I'm apologizing for Adobe. But that's as good as it gets. Okay. So now what we can do is we can take the next one. And let's go ahead and hit the right arrow, go back to the next one. And I'm going to type in there and type in location. And the next one, we're going to type in cost. And now let's go back and view it again. And what we can do is underneath, we can go ahead and, you can manipulate all of this by hand. And so what we're going to do under date is going to be May 1st. And we're going to do a lot more with this. I mean, this is just manipulating all of this by hand. And May Day Parade, that's the event. And then the next one over under location is going to be City Hall. And the cost, I believe, is free. Okay. So we've added all of those goodies here. So again, I'm having trouble selecting just the table tag. Now it's selected. There we go. So now it's highlighting. I don't know why it wasn't before. Okay. And now if you want, notice at the bottom, now that it's highlighting, we can add rows and columns. And anytime they're added, they're automatically added to the right for more columns, and rows will be added to the bottom. So watch what happens if we go from 2 to 5. Okay, 5 rows, and we're going to leave the columns at 4. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit the tab key, and notice how it added those additional rows. So that's how that works. So we can go ahead and we can add those. So now what we can do, you could also go ahead and add rows and columns from a different place too, but that's not important. Let me look here. It looks like we've copying and pasting tables. So probably what we want to do now, let's see if we can do that. I'm going to go ahead and this will be the last thing that I do today. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to our files. Let's see if I didn't screw this up. And under resources, I want calendar HTML. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to double click to open that up. And you can see this is already broken down into rows and columns. And so what I want to do while this is selected here is, again, I have the whole body, but if I click inside here, you'll notice anywhere inside any one of the cells that now it breaks it down into TD for table data. Those are the individual cells. TR for table row, and then I can select the entire table from here. So with the entire table selected, I can go ahead and I can copy. Command C for copy. And now we can go back to our events, the one that I just started over here. And now what I want to do is that we're going to go ahead and insert the cursor in the table. So I'm going to go ahead and put it inside the table. And I'm going to give it a shot and make sure that the table tag is selected. So that's what I want to do. Make sure that the whole table is selected. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Command V for paste. And notice that it took all of that content and it pasted it inside there. So that's much easier than putting it in by hand, although somebody has to put it in by hand at some point. And that's something that you would do, as I said, using Microsoft Excel. But you could take that Excel file and, you know, utilize it inside your web page. And that's what we're doing here. But this has to be done inside the design view, not inside the live view. And how do you remember that? Unless you're doing it all the time, I forget, you know, myself. And that's how that has to be done. So we replaced all that initial stuff that we were putting in by hand, and it automatically added the rows and it left it to the columns of 4, and we're in good shape. And we can save all of this and I can go back to live view. And you can see that this is what it looks like with the default format. But next Thursday, we're going to go look at, and we're going to change the formatting considerably so that it now looks like this, which I think is a much more elegant and refined way of viewing a table. I think it's much easier to read. It's much more pleasing to look at for other things. So the next step will be to start styling this. And that's what we're going to do on Thursday. So we are done for today. Do any of you have any questions before we end our webinar today? I hope it wasn't too confusing what I did. And I hope you guys, you know, if you aren't following along, you can follow along. Sometimes the book makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. So you have to just kind of, you know, work your way through it. So before you guys leave today, I want to make sure that I see participants here and make sure that everybody that is here is accounted for. So Freddie Cisneros is here. You came in. David Knoll is here. Got that. Omaro, I think I already got you before, Omaro. Nelson Fuentes is here. So a bunch of you are here. That's nice. Okay. No questions before we end today? So I'm going to stay on for a moment, but I'm going to wave goodbye and I'm going to stop the recording. Okay. Or pause it, I should say. And, you know, everybody have a good weekend. Okay. And as I said, when we continue with the formatting of the table on Thursday, this will be the hardest thing that you format. It is very specific and particular, but once it's done, it's done. And anytime you add a table in the future, I would use these settings. The only thing that I would probably change is maybe the colors, and that would be done. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording and say goodbye.